Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into a seriously fascinating essay by Aaron Rose from Tech Reader magazine. And honestly, it's an essential piece because it completely shifts how we view the AI revolution. Instead of looking at automation from this anxious, defensive posture, the essay actually points us toward a deeply human, empowered way of looking at things. If you've been wondering what happens to us as machines just keep getting smarter, you are absolutely in the right place.
Let's kick things off by just taking a quick look at the sheer pace of automation. We've basically watched it conquer cognitive tasks decade by decade. It started with basic arithmetic back in the 1970s, then jumped to the 2000s, and software had totally mastered navigation and memory recall. By the 2010s, machine learning was handling really complex translation. And now, here in the 2020s, AI is drafting our code, synthesizing text, and even spotting anomalies in medical images with just incredible precision.
Now, every single time one of those milestones was reached, it kind of felt like machines were getting perilously close to something essential about us. But the human core just kept retreating. So it naturally forces us to ask the big question, as this tide of automation keeps rolling in, what's actually left that AI can't do? Have we just not built the right tool yet? Or is what remains genuinely different?
Well, to answer that, let's look at what I'd call a glitch in the matrix. Let me introduce you to Dr. Linda Marsh. It's 2 a.m. She's looking at a super confident, well-organized AI diagnostic summary right on her screen. All the lab results and imaging line up perfectly with what the machine is telling her, and yet she pauses. She just sits there, not moving.
Here's what she does next. She orders another test. And not because the data suggested it, but because of this unnameable pattern deposited in her by 20 years of practice. That single test changed the entire picture and revealed something crucial that the AI totally missed. And why did the AI miss it? Because the system only knew what it was fed. It literally took Linda's 2 decades of lived experience to know that she needed to look outside the frame. You actually see this exact same pattern pop up elsewhere. Take engineering manager Tom Caldwell. He's interviewing a candidate for a senior role, and his AI screening tool flagged the candidate as top tier. Even his own highly structured, bias-reducing rubric agreed completely. The candidate nailed every question. But Tom hesitated. He couldn't shake this faint, nagging pattern in the candidate's phrasing about their previous team's culture.
Ultimately, Tom passed on the hire. He relied on this almost sourceless instinct that he'd built over 11 years of interviewing hundreds of people. That instinct had never been transcribed, right? It wasn't formalized into some data set. It was a deeply internalized pattern operating just below his own conscious, articulate understanding, something no system could ever process.
And for a third example, consider startup founder Carol Bennett. Her product had perfect retention metrics. Her AI analytical dashboards were incredibly encouraging, literally all green across the board. Everything screamed success. But when she actually sat in the room and physically observed her customers using her product, she sensed this quiet, habitual friction, and it wasn't showing up in any metric. So, based purely on 3 years of direct embodied customer engagement, she gambled on an expensive, highly disruptive rebuild of the product. She completely ignored all those green dashboards. And you know what? It worked. She led her product to totally dominate its category. The metrics couldn't see the problem simply because they were only measuring what they'd been told to measure. So the crucial takeaway here is this. In all 3 cases, whether it's medicine, hiring, or business strategy, these professionals had perfect, optimized data telling them to do one thing. But they used an invisible, internal measure to make a radically different and ultimately way better call. So what exactly is that invisible measure?
The essay points out that this invisible measure is judgment. And here's the real defining characteristic of it. Judgment isn't the final step in a long computation. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's the essential prior act. It's the decision about what goals, what values, and what constraints even matter before the optimization can even begin. You basically can't optimize your way to the right goal. You have to figure out what the goal is first.
To really clear this up, we need to draw a hard line between decisions and judgments. On the one hand, we have decisions. Now, decisions can be optimized. If you've got clear goals and defined constraints, AI is genuinely superior at finding the best path. Think of stuff like credit risk or logistics. But on the other hand, we have judgments. Judgments are evaluative.
They require a value system. They set the goals and help us navigate totally novel situations where the frame hasn't even been established yet. So AI perfectly optimizes the decision, but the human exercises the judgment. And the thing is, this human capacity isn't something you can just download and update for. Research on expert intuition across fields like medicine, chess, military command shows it requires roughly 2 decades of accumulated experience for this kind of domain-specific judgment to truly solidify. That's the threshold where it becomes reliably distinguishable from just informed guessing. It is stubbornly resistant to being packaged up into an algorithm. Section 1. The hidden threat. The erosion of productive struggle. This is where Aaron Rose completely flips the script. The real danger isn't AI taking our jobs. It's AI quietly stealing the friction we actually need to build our judgment. Let's say a young finance analyst lets AI immediately spit out clean summaries and flag anomalies right out of the gate. Sure, their output looks amazing, but think about what they're losing. They completely miss the chance to develop a gut instinct for wrong numbers. They miss the sting of making a mistake and having to carry that lesson forward. Because the truth is, judgment doesn't just appear from reading the right answer. It only develops through consequence. It grows by recognizing when you're wrong and carrying the weight of those corrections with you. It comes from the productive struggle of wrestling with a really hard problem long enough that your brain actually shifts before the answer even arrives. If AI smooths over all that friction, that deep encounter with the problem never happens. And this brings us to the ultimate limitation of pure optimization. Tools are brilliant at processing data, for sure, but they can only analyze what we point them at. Knowing what to point them at in the first place, that requires deeply earned, highly contextual human judgment. Section 2. The accountability moat. Reframing our defense against automation. We really need to completely reframe this idea of a human moat. It shouldn't be this defensive, anxious posture about job security, but rather an empowered one. Judgment is, fundamentally, the capacity through which human beings remain accountable to the outcomes of their decisions. It's what makes it possible to look back and say whether a decision was wise, whether it reflected good values, and whether it actually served the people it was supposed to serve. When we outsource decisions entirely to a tool, accountability just kind of diffuses. It gets much harder to locate. I mean, you can't ask a machine to explain and defend its value system because it doesn't have one. Think back to our 3 examples. Linda owns her patient's health. Tom owns his team's success and their culture. Carol owns her company's direction. The AI tools they used were super valuable for informing them, sure, but those tools never once relieved them of the heavy weight of actually deciding. The humans are the agents of accountability. As the essay just perfectly summarizes, a tool does not own the outcome, someone still has to. And that weight, that responsibility, is exactly where human judgment lives. It's the whole reason automation has any direction or meaning in the first place. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on today as you navigate your own career and these incredible tools we have. Are you using AI tools to sharpen your human judgment by surfacing better options? Or are you quietly letting them smooth over the productive struggle you desperately need to actually grow? Keep embracing the friction, because that is absolutely where your true value lies. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.